If you think you need a sprawling backyard to grow juicy, delicious tomatoes, think again. Today I'm here to show you how to get a high-yield tomato harvest right from a container. No backyard needed, just a sunny spot, a few smart tips, and you're good to go. Container gardening is a fantastic way to bring fresh veggies into your home, even if you're working with a small patio, balcony, or window space. Let's dive into some tips to get those tomatoes growing big and abundant in containers. You'll be surprised how easy it is to create your own little tomato oasis, no matter where you live. We'll cover everything from choosing the right container and tomato variety to watering, feeding, and supporting your plants for maximum yield. Get ready to grow some of the tastiest tomatoes you've ever had. First, let's talk about choosing the perfect container for your tomato plants. Remember, we're aiming for a high yield here, so we need to give those roots plenty of room to stretch out. For most tomato varieties, you'll want a container that's at least 5 gallons in size. This will ensure your plants have enough space for their roots to grow and access the nutrients they need. Look for pots that are nice and wide, not just deep. This allows the roots to spread horizontally, which is important for overall plant health and stability. And speaking of stability, make sure your chosen container has plenty of drainage holes. Proper drainage is crucial to prevent root rot and keep your plants happy and productive. Now, if you want to take your container game to the next level, let me introduce you to my secret weapon, fabric pots. These bad boys are a game changer for container gardening, especially for tomatoes. Fabric pots are breathable, which means they allow air to reach the roots, promoting healthy growth. They also provide excellent drainage, preventing those dreaded soggy roots. Plus, their porous nature helps prevent root circling, a common problem in traditional containers. Alright, now that we've got the perfect container sorted, let's talk about choosing the right tomato variety for your container garden. Not all tomatoes are created equal, especially when it comes to container growing. For best results, you'll want to look for tomato varieties that are specifically bred for containers or small spaces. These are often labeled as dwarf, patio, or bush tomatoes. Some popular choices for container gardeners include Tiny Tim and Patio Princess. These varieties are known for their manageable size and impressive yields. Now, if you're feeling adventurous and have a bit more vertical space, you can also try growing indeterminate tomato varieties in containers. Indeterminate tomatoes will keep growing and producing fruit throughout the season, unlike determinate varieties that have a more defined growth habit. But for now, just remember to choose tomato varieties that suit your space and your gardening style. Now that we've got our container and tomato variety sorted, it's time to talk about the foundation of any successful garden, the soil. When it comes to container gardening, using the right potting mix is crucial for healthy plant growth and bountiful harvests. Don't even think about scooping up some soil from your backyard and calling it a day. Regular garden soil is often too dense and compact for container gardening. It doesn't provide adequate drainage or aeration, which can lead to root problems and stunted growth. Instead, head to your local garden center and pick up some high-quality potting mix. These mixes are specially formulated for container gardening. They're lightweight, well-draining, and packed with essential nutrients to give your plants the best possible start. To give your potting mix an extra boost, I recommend adding some compost or organic matter. Compost improves soil structure, adds beneficial microorganisms, and provides a slow release of nutrients to keep your plants thriving. You can use homemade compost or purchase it from a garden center. Just make sure it's well-aged and broken down. Mix a couple of handfuls into your potting mix before planting. Alright, let's talk about everyone's favorite gardening chore, watering. Just kidding, I know watering can sometimes feel like a chore, but trust me, it's one of the most important aspects of successful container gardening, especially when it comes to thirsty plants like tomatoes. Tomatoes love consistent moisture, but they absolutely hate having soggy roots. Finding that sweet spot between too wet and too dry is key to keeping your plants happy and productive. A good rule of thumb is to water your tomato plants deeply when the top inch of soil feels dry to the touch. Don't just give them a little sprinkle. Make sure the water reaches all the way down to the roots. Water until you see it draining out of the drainage holes at the bottom of the container. This ensures that the entire root system is getting hydrated. Now here's a crucial tip. Avoid wetting the leaves as much as possible. Wet leaves can create the perfect environment for fungal diseases to develop. Water directly at the soil level, using a watering can with a narrow spout or a soaker hose. Another thing to keep in mind is that container gardens tend to dry out faster than traditional garden beds, especially during hot summer. As your tomato plants grow taller and start producing fruit, they'll need some support to prevent them from flopping over and potentially damaging their stems or fruit. Remember, we're going for maximum yield here, and that means keeping those plants upright and those tomatoes off the ground. Investing in a sturdy support system is essential for any tomato plant, but it's especially crucial for container-grown tomatoes. Without proper support, your plants could topple over under the weight of their own fruit, leading to broken branches and a disappointing harvest. There are several different types of tomato supports available, so you can choose the one that best suits your needs and your aesthetic preferences. Tomato cages are a popular choice for their ease of use and affordability. Simply place the cage over the young tomato plant and gently guide the branches through the openings as the plant grows. Stakes are another option, especially for taller, indeterminate varieties. Drive a sturdy stake into the ground next to the tomato plant and loosely tie the main stem to the stake using soft garden twine or Velcro plant ties. As the plant grows taller, continue tying it to the stake at regular intervals. If you're feeling a bit fancy, you can even use a trellis to support your tomato plants. Next, let's talk about food. Just like us, tomato plants need a balanced diet to thrive and produce an abundance of delicious fruit. Container-grown tomatoes are heavy feeders, requiring frequent fertilization. Choose a fertilizer specifically formulated for tomatoes or vegetables. Granular fertilizers are sprinkled around the base, while liquid fertilizers are mixed with water. For organic options, fish emulsion and seaweed extract are great choices. Fish emulsion is high in nitrogen, promoting leafy growth. Seaweed extract is packed with micronutrients and growth hormones. All right, let's talk about everyone's favorite star, the sun. Tomatoes adore basking in the sun and need plenty of it to produce juicy, flavorful fruits. They require at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight per day. Choose the sunniest spot for your container garden. If sunlight is limited, consider investing in a grow light. Grow lights mimic sunlight, helping plants photosynthesize and thrive. We've covered a lot of ground today, from choosing the right container and tomato variety to watering, feeding, and supporting your plants. Now let's talk about the most rewarding part of the entire process, harvesting those beautiful, ripe tomatoes. One of the great things about growing tomatoes is that they're incredibly prolific producers. With proper care and attention, a single tomato plant can yield a surprising amount of fruit throughout the growing season. But here's a little secret. To encourage your tomato plants to keep producing those delicious fruits, you need to harvest them regularly. Tomatoes are best harvested when they're fully ripe, which means they've reached their full size and color, and they feel slightly soft to the touch. Don't be afraid to give them a gentle squeeze to test for ripeness. Once you've harvested your tomatoes, you can enjoy them fresh from the vine, add them to salads, sandwiches, and sauces, or preserve them for later use by canning, freezing, or drying. Now, as your tomato plants continue to grow and produce fruit, you might notice some yellowing or browning leaves, especially at the bottom of the plant. However, you can help your plant stay healthy and productive by removing these yellowing leaves as you see them. And there you have it, your foolproof guide to growing a high-yield tomato garden without a backyard. With these tips, you'll be picking fresh, homegrown tomatoes in no time. Remember, container gardening is all about creating a thriving ecosystem in a small space. By choosing the right container, soil, and tomato variety, and by providing your plants with the water, nutrients, support, and sunlight they need, you'll be well on your way to harvesting a bumper crop of delicious tomatoes. Got more container gardening questions? Drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more beginner-friendly gardening tips. Happy gardening!